Hello everyone, welcome back. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Here in Kentucky, the weather could not be more perfect. It is a beautiful 70 degrees. People are out working on their lawns, so I apologize if you hear lawnmowers in the background, but it seems all my neighbors are working on their lawns tonight, which is something I plan to do here in a few minutes after I get through making this cake with you. So when I was thinking about what I wanted to do for the Easter video, the thing that came to mind almost immediately is the Easter Bunny cake. And I know there's several YouTube videos out there about the Easter Bunny cake, but this is something that stands out for me as a child, my mother making this cake. And I remember watching her make it. And when I told her that I was going to do the video this week on the Easter Bunny cake, she got really excited and she said, you know, it's been a long time since I've made that cake. So I want to do this for her, and hopefully she loves to watch my videos, so she will enjoy going back down memory lane as I make this cake. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And the supplies that you're going to need, I went ahead and made 2 round cakes, and I just used 1 box of yellow cake mix. This was the Better Recipe yellow cake mix, and you can use whatever you prefer. If you want a white cake, yellow cake, strawberry cake, doesn't really matter. So you can fix your own, your favorite flavor of cake. You do want to bake them, obviously, and you bake them according to the directions on the box, and they have to be completely cool before you start decorating. So that's where I'm at this point. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a knife. Oh, and the other ingredients that you're going to need, of course, you're going to need some coconut. And just for time's sake, I bought some buttercream frosting instead of making my own, but you can make your own if you prefer to do that. You're going to need jelly beans and some licorice. You're going to need food coloring, and I like to use the gel food colors. They're just easier for me to work with. And I also am going to be using some colored coconut, sweetened coconut flakes. So all I did for these colors is that I just separated some of the coconut into these small bowls, and I added some of the food coloring and was able to color them any color I wanted. So I've got some pink, some green, and blue, and I also have, I took some frosting from my jars of frosting that I bought, and I just added food coloring to it as well for the bow tie. So that's my supplies that I'm going to need. And the first thing I'm going to do, of course, the rabbit has to have ears. So one of the round cake segments, you're going to cut it, and let me cut it and I'll show you what it looks like. So you're going to cut it in a shape similar to this, and as you can see, that's going to be one of his ears. Now what I'm going to do, so they're virtually the same size, I'm just going to put this over on this end and cut so they're basically the same size, or close anyway. And actually, I was watching a great-grandma make this cake on YouTube, and this is what she suggested to do, which I thought was a brilliant idea. Okay, so here's his ears, and this part will be his bow tie. So one thing that my mother always used to do when she made this, she would get a piece of cardboard and she would put Reynolds wrap, aluminum foil over this. That's just something that I really remember. I actually have a cake board, so I'm going to use that instead. So let me move his little face down here and put his ears on. And there we go. And actually, if you cut just a little segment out of the bottom of his ear, his ears will sit better on the cake. All right. And then his bow tie is going to go right under his his little head. So let me turn this around so you guys can see it. And there's what we have. So there's our general outline of our Easter Bunny cake. There we go. That's what we have. Now, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to frost the Easter Bunny. And I'm going to go ahead and start, I think, with his ears. And of course, this will take a little bit of time. So while I'm doing this, I'm going to tell a few Easter stories. So when I ask you guys what you would like to see more of on my channel, I got a lot of comments that you would love to hear more stories and you would like to see more cooking videos. So I listened. And so I have a lot of wonderful, wonderful memories of Easter. As a child, of course, I've told you in my other video, church was a big part of our lives. And Easter, of course, was no different. So I'll start with the church traditions. So some of the church traditions of the Easter, we had something called a sunrise service on Easter Sunday. And basically what that was is that people would get up super, super early at sunrise. And they would have a small church service out on the lawn behind our church. And I think that I no longer live in that community, but I'm pretty sure they still do this. So basically the pastor would read some scripture, there would be singing, and it would just be a small church service, and it was really, really nice. So that's something that was very traditional. And again, in case you missed my first video, I was raised in a Southern Baptist church, so that's the religion that I'm going to be sharing some of these memories with. Another thing we would do in our church, of course, this wasn't a Christian tradition, but it was part of what our church did. We had Easter egg hunts. So these usually took place, well, I remember sometimes it taking place on Sunday, Easter Sunday. But most of the time, I'm thinking, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, those of you who went to my church, and the name of my church was Greyhawk Baptist Church. But I think that we usually did our Easter egg hunts on Saturday before Easter. But like I said, I could be wrong. And so we would have Easter egg hunts, and we would have so much fun. And I remember, Easter in Appalachia was always a time that everybody really brought out their Sunday finest. People really dressed up. People that normally just wore, everyday church clothes, I would say, they brought out the finest when it came to Easter Sunday. And let me talk a little bit about how people dress for church back in the day when I was a child. So now it's pretty typical for churches to be much more casual, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But back in the day, you hardly saw anyone not dressed up for church. And I think it was kind of a sign of respect that you dressed up. Of course, things are different now, but that's the way it was when I was when I was a youngster growing up. All right, so I got one ear done. So on Easter Sunday, we started the day out with our sunrise service. We would go back home. And I forgot the most important part, of course. When we woke up early Sunday morning, the first thing my sister and I would see would be our Easter baskets. Because the Easter Bunny always brought our baskets on Easter morning. And we were so excited. Oh my gosh. Just super excited. Let me say right here, it does not matter what this looks like. I'm not doing the best job frosting this cake. So it doesn't matter because you're going to cover it up with coconut. So it's all good if it's not perfect because you're going to cover it up. Anyway, we wake up, we have our Easter baskets. We were so excited. What did the Easter Bunny bring us? And typically the things that were in our Easter baskets were candy. I don't remember, I think maybe we got a toy or two, but it was just something very, very small. It was typically candy, and that was a big deal to us. We just loved it. So after we would open up our Easter baskets, and these were Easter baskets that our parents actually put the things in there. You know, nowadays you can buy them that's prepackaged or whatever. Now they put the stuff in there themselves. So, you know, they would put things in like our favorite candies, that sort of thing. So it was kind of special to us that they took the time to do that. Of course, at that time we thought it was the Easter Bunny doing it all because that was the tradition. So after and then we get ready for sunrise service. And we would come home from that, usually have a nice Easter breakfast, and then we would get ready for church. And we usually didn't wear our Sunday finest at the sunrise service. We saved that for the actual Easter Sunday service. And we were always, our mother always dressed us so pretty. We had really pretty pastel dresses, and I remember some of the dresses that we would wear. It was just so pretty. It was so fun. And so that was a typical Easter Sunday at church. And then after church, and the thing that, you know, always amazed me, and we kind of laugh about this in the Baptist church, but it seems like that Easter Sunday, the church all of a sudden is so much smaller. And what I mean by that is that there are no seats. So we used to laugh that Easter Sunday was a time when people that you never ever saw in church would come out. And so I remember if we didn't get there early enough, we couldn't get a seat. There were no seats, especially in our small church. In our first original church when I was a child. And we used to laugh about that all the time. We would say, you know, people come out for church. And they do that on Christmas too. So that was kind of a running joke as well. But it's just good that people were there. It was a time of fellowship. It was a time of community. And it was a lot of fun. So after church, we would usually pack up. And we would go home, of course. No, actually, we kept our dress clothes on because I remember us having our dresses on. We would go to my maternal grandmother's house, and she was such a wonderful cook. And we would have the most wonderful Easter dinner. Oh, and let me talk about that for a minute. So in the comments, I would like for you to put, what do you call the midday meal? Do you call it lunch? Do you call it dinner? So what is it that you call the midday meal? So in Appalachia, we would call that dinner. The midday meal was dinner. So we would go there for dinner, the midday meal. And she would have the traditional things such as deviled eggs, ham, delicious ham, green beans, mashed potatoes. She would usually have homemade rolls and just absolutely wonderful food. Sometimes she'd fix a salad. Everything was delicious, just delicious. So my first cousins, my mom's sister and her family would be there. So after the meal, all of us kids would be so excited to hunt eggs. We'd have our own family egg hunt. And, sorry about that. And we would hunt eggs. So what would happen, the adults would hide the eggs while all of us kids had to impatiently wait in the house for them to hide the eggs. And it seemed like it would take forever. Of course, it didn't, but to us kids, it took forever. So then once they hid the eggs, all of us kids, and there were, let me think, there were 4 of us. Yeah, 4 of us. We would run out the doors with our Easter baskets and we go hunt the eggs. And typically, most of the eggs were your generic hard-boiled colored Easter eggs. But occasionally, if you were lucky, you would find a prize egg. And the prize eggs were plastic eggs, typically, that had money in them. So that was always really exciting. Or sometimes they would mark an egg. It would be a real egg, but they would use a wax crayon or a wax marker or something, and they would say prize egg on it or have a star on it, something that indicated it was a special egg. And then you would go to one of the adults and they would give you whatever the prize was. You know, most of the time it was money. So just some amazing memories of Easter. And I think that over the years, what I noticed is I carried a lot of those traditions down to my own children, but we changed some things up. So, of course, if you know the story with my first child, we were with my mom and dad when he was real little for a while, till I got on my feet and got through college. But we pretty much had the same traditions that I had as a child. But when I married my second husband, he was raised Catholic, and he had some different traditions than I had. So he introduced some things, and one thing I remember that I was not accustomed to is he asked me, for one of the first Easters, he said, do you hide the Easter basket? And I'm like, what do you mean, do I hide the Easter basket? And he said, well, in my family, we would hide the Easter baskets. And that was a new tradition. Let me check the sides of that was a new tradition that we actually started. And it was a lot of fun. The kids enjoyed trying to find their Easter baskets, and we would hide them in the most random places. We would hide them on top of the refrigerator or in the refrigerator. We've done that before. So we started hiding Easter baskets. Also, and I'm going to paint the bow tie a different color. I'm going to paint it blue. Also, he had his Easter dinner was, well, for one thing, he called dinner, that was the late meal of the day. So when I would say something about dinner, he would say, oh, are you talking about the evening meal? No. And our evening meal we called supper. So, and that was not a term he was familiar with. So it took us a while to kind of work all that out. But anyway, for their evening, let's call it dinner, midday meal, they had different traditional foods than what I was used to. And I can't for the life of me remember some of those at this time. But I just remember that he brought in some foods that I was not used to serving on Easter. But it was a lot of fun because it brought new things in, new traditions. So it was really kind of cool to see that. So, you know, a lot of times people think it's a big deal when you mix cultures, mix traditions, religious traditions and that sort of thing. But it can actually be kind of fun because when you blend the two together, you can really come up with some fun activities and fun traditions for your family. So, which is exactly what we did. Another thing, music was a huge, huge part of our Easter services. And even at home, we would sing special songs at Easter. And we always had, in our church, we would have something called special music. And what that was is it would either be a person or a group that would basically perform during the service. And I think I mentioned in the pie recipe video that I played piano for a couple groups. Seems like I played piano for a lot of groups. But that was something that I did quite frequently, was play music, special music as they refer to it. Let me scoot this over a little bit. So music, again, played a huge part of the traditional Easter service. Always so much fun. Okay. So, one thing I'd like to ask you guys to put in the comments below is, what are some traditions that you had as a child? And I know different religions, some celebrate Easter, some do not. But if you could just put, maybe if you did not celebrate Easter, what are some of your traditions during this season that you did celebrate? Maybe it was a renewal. I know some people have renewal services because it's spring. We're coming out of winter into a renewal season. So, you know, maybe that's something your family did, but I would love to know what some of your traditions are. And if you did celebrate, if you did have an Easter service or tradition, what kind of food what are your traditional foods? Love to know that as well. I so much enjoyed reading some of the comments from the last video that I did with the coconut cream pie. All right. It's not beautiful, but it's going to be. Okay. I think we're good. All right. So, have the frosting, and I hope you guys can see this okay. Now, the next thing I'm going to do, and I'll clean all this up a little bit later, I am going to go ahead and put my coconut on the bunny. Let me look at him and make sure he looks straight. I'm going to actually turn him around facing me so I can see him. Yeah, his ears are a little wonky, so let me fix that. Okay. All right, and I just see a spot or two now that I've changed positions that I need to put more frosting on. Also, what did you call this that you put on cakes? Did you call it frosting or did you call it icing? And when you put this on cake, do you say you're icing a cake or frosting a cake? That seems to be another term that's different in Appalachia. Okay, so I'm going to take white coconut and I'm going to cover our bunny, so he's a pretty white bunny. And one thing I do recommend that I did not do, I would recommend getting white icing. I just saw buttercream, and I love buttercream icing, but I think it's going to make your bunny prettier if he's white. But the coconut's going to help covering him up a little bit, but I would suggest that you get white icing. Now for his bow tie, I'm going to put blue icing, or blue coconut, I'm sorry, on him. This takes quite a bit of coconut, just be prepared. I think I have 2 packs of coconut in this jar. I like to store my coconut and flour and things like that in a jar. It seems to stay fresher longer. Oh, and be sure you get the sides too. Don't forget the sides. All right, I think we have a pretty fuzzy bunny here. All right. Now I am going to go ahead and cover his bow tie. And whenever you color your coconut, it's not going to be perfect, guys, but you know, you do what you do. Put a little bit of blue coconut on his bow tie, make him pretty. And I can tell you, with all this coconut, you're going to have a mess to clean up, but yeah, you know, that's part of it. So, do you guys also do Easter egg hunts? And what do you do once the kids grow up? So, one of the funny things I do, of course, you know me and dogs, I have Easter egg hunts for my dogs. Yeah, I do that. And my dogs actually went to Four Paws, where I work as a taxi driver. They went there this week for an Easter party. And they got to have an Easter egg hunt. And they had their picture made with the Easter bunny, and it was so cute. I will, if I can remember to do this, I will put the pictures, their pictures in the video here, so you can see they were adorable. Just adorable. Okay, I think we have the bow tie. Some pink on his ears. And again, I used red food coloring. This is a little red, but I think it's going to be fine. So all I do when I'm doing this is I put a little pink right down the middle of his ears, just to give it some definition and, you know, make it look like a bunny ear for what that's worth. So there's his pink ear. Actually, I think I need to stand up for this so I can see it, because I want him to look fairly even. You guys can probably hear my dogs whining out the door. They were barking, so I had to put them out. It's a beautiful day. It's good for them to be out. Okay, perfect. Now, we have, I think I'm going to wait and put on my grass a little bit later. I like to put grass around the bunny. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is put on his little face. Let me put a little bit more coconut here. Okay. And what I do, a lot of people do this different ways. Some people use icing. I usually just use jelly beans. So I'm going to use, since I don't have black, I'm going to use purple jelly beans for his eyes. And I saw something in Pinterest that I really liked. For his mouth, and I'm hoping this will work. I'm going to try it anyway. They did a little, I think you're going to have to mash it in the frosting to get it to stay. Yeah, there we go. Pretty much work. You're going to have to really kind of work with it a little bit to make it stay, but here we go. Just push some frosting up around it and it'll mesh in there. Okay. You know, not only is this cake pretty, it is really tasty. I remember this is one of my favorite cakes. Of course, I love yellow cake, and I especially like coconut. Seems like I have a theme here using coconut all the time. So the last thing I'm going to put on are his whiskers. Well, not the last thing, but next. And you just kind of place them where you want. You have to kind of work with them, make them look right. All right. And I think the last thing I'm going to do is just put a few jelly beans around his bow tie. Just to give a little color. I like color. Add some decoration. You can just kind of do this however you want to do it. The jelly beans really add the color to it. And this pack of jelly beans, there's not much of a variety. I'm kind of shocked. All right. So I'm going to clean him up just a little. And I'm going to put grass around him. I think grass makes it pretty. It's not real grass, it's coconut with green icing. But let me get some of this all the way here so I can show you guys the final product. And I usually just put the grass around kind of the outline of him. Just kind of give it some definition and depth. And I mean, if you want, you can put him up around his ears. But I don't know. So I think I am going to put a little bit more up around his ears. I'm going to have to add some food coloring in as I'm out of green. And I can show you guys how I do this. So I just add regular coconut in. And take my gel and just add a little bit in there, like so. Like that. Mix it up. And you have green coconut. You have to be careful, you'll stir it out. And you really have to stir this. If you don't, you're going to have white patches and dark green patches and all that. So you have to work with it for a few minutes. All right, I think we're good. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some in between his ears just to break that up a little bit. Oh yeah, this looks much better. I like it better. I mean, you could cover the whole board if you wanted to. It's kind of up to you what you want to do with it. You're going to have a lot of coconut to do that, but you can do it. So I don't think I finished telling the story about what I'm going to do with so Easter Sunday, my whole family's coming over, my kids. And my ex-husband's going to be here, and we're going to have a big Easter dinner that I call it. We're going to have a late, I actually call it dinner instead of supper. So we're having a late night meal, dinner. And after that, actually they're going to come over a little bit early, and we're going to do probably some board games, play outside if the weather's good, and, you know, just hang out, just spend time together as a family. And we are having an Easter egg hunt for the dogs. Yes, the dogs. I know, we're ridiculous, but you know, that's just how we are. Both my children have dogs, and so they'll be coming, and we're having an Easter egg hunt for the dogs. So I have some gifts for my kids and for the dogs. So yeah. All right, guys, I think we have it, and I'm going to turn this around so you guys can see it, and I think he turned out really cute. So let me turn him around here and hope and pray I don't drop him. I would cry. You would see me cry on camera. So this, I guess I need to name him, is my Easter bunny cake. There he is. I hope you like him. It was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed telling stories while I made him too. I hope you guys can see him okay. So this is something that's a lot of fun to make with kids. Like I said, I remember, let me see if I can hold him up a little bit. I remember my mother, something fell off, jelly beans. My mother, we didn't spend a lot of time in the kitchen because my mom was always like, kids, get out and go play outside. You know, that was in the days when kids played outside. But this would be a wonderful project for you and your children to do together. So, you know, you can add this to your Easter activities. And you can also do this with cupcakes. You can make little bunny head cupcakes. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and please don't forget to, in the comments, share some of your Easter traditions and some of your traditional foods. And if you don't celebrate Easter, any kind of a spring activity that you might celebrate, and what you do, what are your traditional activities and foods? I'd love to hear those. And as always, if you guys would not care to, please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. And also, if you haven't done so already, if you would subscribe, that would be so helpful. It will help to grow my channel so I can bring more of this. And as I've said many times, I appreciate you guys so much, and I really look forward to doing this every week with you. Even though I don't get to see you guys, I feel like it's a way to connect. I don't get out a whole lot between work and you know, I'm working 2 to 3 jobs, so I don't have a lot of time to socialize. This is my socialization, and I really enjoy it. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for your support. I hope all of you have a wonderful and blessed Easter, and I hope to see you again next week. Take care. Goodbye.